Hi guys, it is Sharon with Little Britain Company, and I am here. I'm so excited. I am finally ready to do this tutorial for you on the envelope album that I had shown you in a previous video. I did a walkthrough of the video. I'm going to show it to you real quick. This is an envelope album, and when you open it up, you see that I literally have used the envelopes and cards to create the album. And there are, this was one of my Halloween ones. There is another Halloween one that I had started, but I have to switch gears right now and concentrate on Christmas because I have 3 shows coming up in, well, 2 shows in 3 weeks, which means everything I'm doing is pushing as quickly as I can to get really wonderful product out to the 2 shows. One is in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's called a Greenbrier Walkthrough. It's a really, really interesting new concept about if you have a lot of artisans in an area, having them set up basically as a weekend or a one-day thing. And then people can literally tour the neighborhood and meet the artisans, and they can actually set up right there instead of traveling distances. Which is interesting because I don't live there, but they have some other artisans coming in and setting up on other people's front lawns, which is really kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it. I think there's one in November 5th, which is the one I won't be at. I have 2 wonderful sisters who are going to be handling my booth for me. One of them is Christine, who does the amazing junk journals, and she will have junk journals there. Please go see them. They are amazing. Her work is a treasure trove, truly. And next to her will be my nephew, Zach, who's an amazing painter. Across from them will be my big brother, Bob. I am the youngest, but my big brother, Bob, and he has a company, Wheel Wooden Toys. He retired from it for a while. He's doing it for these shows, and his pieces are definitely ones that will remain in your family for many, many years. They can be passed down from children to children. And then, so that's the Greenbrier Walkthrough. And I hope you are there and you meet some of my family members. And then there is a show called it's a Christmas Sip and Shop in Kinston, North Carolina. That's where I will be with Big and Little Brit. So really looking forward to it. There's just a lot going on, and that means my entire focus right now is Christmas with a smidge of fall. Just a smidge of fall. So today I will be doing the envelope album with you, and I have all the pieces laid out. So let's get started. Let's get moving towards it. So we start always with our stack of cards, for, in this case, Christmas cards and envelopes. Now, in the first one that I showed you, I used 13 envelopes, and I think more than that in cards. In this one, I'm going to actually be using an extra, I think I'll be using 15 envelopes. So it is very important that you get them the same size. Now, when I look at these, I don't know if you can see the discrepancy in the colors. I can. They are slightly different. In your envelope album, it will not make a difference. Some of these are a little bit darker than others. Some of them are just a little bit more barnyard. Some of them are a little bit more bright. But when you put your album together, I will try to match the similar grades of coloring, but it really won't matter. So, and you can actually do this with, all different envelopes if you wanted to. So I went to Dollar Tree, picked up all of my cards and envelopes. Here are my stack of envelopes, and I just I'm going to run through my cards. This may not be all the cards I use. I have other cards to fall back on if I don't like the way these are going together. This is also a really cool album to put together if you have Christmas cards from years that you just want to hold on to, or you want a really nice way to display them. So this can handle, I want to say at least 20 or more cards. but you would do that slightly differently, and we can talk about that as we go through. So here are some of the cards. I think this is going to be my cover card. I love it so much. I think I showed this in a different video at one point. It's just very vintage. It's just adorable. All right, so I love this one. I think this one's really cool. And then we get into, we get into some different cards. Now that would be true anytime you would have Christmas cards. Not everyone's going to send you a vintage card. They're going to send you cards that they like, or often cards have their pictures on them or things. All of it's good. The theme here is not necessarily vintage. The theme here are cards, but you can sift through. If you get a large number of cards, you can certainly sift through those cards and see if you can find things with some similar elements, but you don't have to. Just saying. Okay, so I love this little guy. You know, polar bears, you know, they're adorable. So he's adorable. And he's got some nice little sparkle to him, if you can see the sparkle. This is a beautiful card. For a general album, I'm going to do things to get rid of some of the sentiments. So we're going to do things to cover up these sentiments, because you don't always want those sentiments in your albums. So this is adorable, and I think we're going to try to fussy cut around it and then put something in behind it, but we'll see. This one's just really sweet and very simple. This would be a great one to put a photo directly on top of. So that would be my suggestion to someone. It will be when I hopefully sell this. My suggestion would be take a photo and put it directly on there, because we don't have to have this, and we won't be having these. So this one's very sweet, very, oh my golly, Thomas Nast in a way. So Night Before Christmas. I love this one, and I think that this is going to be the very end of my album. So yeah, I think that that's going to go in there. I'm going to put that with this one, because this will be on the cover, and at the very end of the album, I think that that's just going to be my simple sentiment. And you could certainly have a little family picture down here, any kind, or not. Always up to the artist, which is you. This one is very sweet too. I love the sentiment. I'm not going to cover that sentiment up. I think sentiment, it sounds like cinnamon. I'm not going to cover that up. Some of these have really nice messages. Some of them I think need a little something. I think this one is gorgeous. And these, I literally just picked these up at Dollar Tree. Isn't that cute? I don't know if you can see how it glimmers. All right, we're going to try to make sure that we're getting good coverage. So this has got some beautiful glitter. That's the word I'm looking for. I like this card. It's got some nice glitter going here. Our friendship just grows more beautiful with time. It's a lovely sentiment, but I'm not sure that I want it in this particular album. So I'll be looking for something to do with that side. So again, son, you're a blessing. My sons, all three of my sons are just amazing blessings. They are all amazing. Well, Little Bert's not quite a young man. He's only 11, so I guess I'd call him a young man. But my other sons they're just amazing men. And so as much as I love them, this particular album will be an album that I will be up for sale. So I'm going to put something else in here as a different sentiment, or just as a nice ephemera touch. I'm not changing a thing about this card. I love it. It's got that vintagey feel. Love it, love it, love it. This has got a lot. So we've got brother up here, Christmas time. If this is not going to a brother, those are elements that I will have to work on to find something cool to go in these spaces. And again, we've got this grandson. This is a nice card. This one does not have any foiling. It doesn't have any glitter, but it's a beautiful card. So I just need to find a nice something here. And again, this is just too specific. If this just said Merry Christmas, I would probably leave it as is. It's a really pretty card. It's got some really interesting glitter effects, but, you know, the person picking it up may be a granddaughter, may have a granddaughter, but may not. And so we want to make it as, when I am making these to sell, I want to make them as commercially available to as many people as possible. So some of the specifics can't be there. Thoughtfulness is a blessing. I love that. I may add something down here and I might leave that. It is a very simple card. It is very nice. It's time of year to be grateful for the people who bless our lives, people like you. That is very true. Those of you who are joining me, those of you who have subscribed, who have subscribed and who have liked and who have messaged and I am so blessed to have you and I appreciate you. So this is a really cute card, and I may buy more of these just for this. I love this. But I really, and again, that's too specific for what I'm doing here. So we're going to have to find something different here. I can think of maybe some gingerbready things, but that's very wood. We'll see. So first things first is going to be getting the album together. Starting to get the envelopes in, and then we can worry about the card decorations. I did pick up a few of the, so those were all 50-cent cards at Dollar Tree. These are dollar cards at Dollar Tree, but I did pick some of these up. I really like the look of them, and these can be trimmed down to fit in our albums if we so choose. So, I'm sorry, I keep digressing and reading the cards. Again, this is a really nice card, and this could trim up. I'm just going to do this over the top. Yeah, that would trim. That could trim really nicely. So you would just get from here over. These envelopes, of course, won't work. I didn't find enough of these bigger ones to create an album. I actually was really hoping to find enough of the big ones to create an album. The reason, and I have lots of cards, loads, and I went through all my cards before I went to Dollar Tree, hoping that I would have enough to use in the albums. But the reason I had to go to Dollar Tree was because they have the envelopes and cards that are the same size. So I'm going to find enough generally to do the album without having kind of scrounge around and use other things. So, but I didn't find enough that I liked that were in the dollar yet because they've just started bringing their cards in. So this one's adorable. I certainly think I can find something to put in those spaces because if I cut it out, if I want, yeah, I'm going to end up with both the sentiments if I cut that one out. And I'm just, of course, using one of my cards because it gives me, it's a quick, easy way for me to see the dimensions and how it would fit, what I would get out of the card if I cut it, what I would want to cut. This is a beautiful card. Looking at it now, I think that if I cut it out, I would lose. So I would get the sentiment, but I would lose all of this, and I don't think I would want to do that. So this one is so cute. I have 5 sisters. One of them is not with us anymore on this plane, but I have 5 sisters, and this is just so cute. Love it, love it, love it. So, yeah, that would be cute. So if I did this, if I decided to use this one, because remember, we cut all of these down to just the pretty front of the card. These pieces will generally get cut off. They don't have to be. If these are cards that you're using from things that people have sent you over the sent you this Christmas or over the years, or a specific year, or you know, maybe a specific person has sent you over the years, you can leave these intact. We'll talk about that when we go through. For this album, I will be cutting them. So I just wanted to see what I would get out of that. I would get this really nice visual here, and then I could have something really cute put down here. So, all right, that one would work. I do think I may end up needing more cards than I have here. This one, that one would be iffy. You could get, you're going to end up with a lot of writing on this one because it's so close together. So I'm not sure I would try trimming that one. This is one of my favorite cards. I love it. I love the look of it. I love the sparkle. I don't know if you can see the sparkle. It's got the foiling, and then it has, I don't know if you can see that. It definitely has glitter. The whole thing is glittered. Very old-fashioned card. But if I cut it down, I'm going to lose a lot of what makes it special. So I am not cutting that one down. This is the one that, when I started picking cards, I had planned on using these larger cards. The album, the first album, the Halloween album, uses this size, which is their 50-cent card. And they are, you know, they do kind of sort out that way. The 50-cent cards are one size, and I'm going to say, what size? I have it written down. Let's see. The 50-cent cards are not on that page. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Okay. Because I had done something else while I was waiting for a video to res. They are 7 1/4 by 5, or at least the envelopes are 7 1/4 by 5. So the cards are probably about a 1/4 inch smaller than that, 7 by 4 3/4. The bigger ones are definitely bigger. About 5 1/2 by 8. So these are about 5 1/2 by 8. So certainly bigger. So had I been able to do the larger album, this card would have been the front of the album because I just think it's gorgeous. I also love this one. I just adore this one. So glad we're friends. I am so glad we're friends. There are a lot of glitter elements in here. And again, it's hard for me to tell the angle that the camera is in right now if you can see those. And I really hope that you're getting a good view of things. But it's adorable. I love these characters. If I cut it out, yeah, I would probably have to do it this way. And then do something up here. But could I leave friends in there? Yeah, I could probably leave the word friends and cut here. And leave most of that. So anyway, piece from pole to pole. I love this card. I love it, love it, love it. But there's no way I would make it fit without cutting somebody's head off. Because I would want that piece from pole to pole. Boy, do I pray that we have that someday. So I love that card. And then Happy Holidays. This one is interesting because it opens even bigger. And I love these, and I will probably cut some of these out. When I do this card in the envelope, I will probably cut some of those other ones out. So really pretty. These bigger ones, I don't know if I'll show that in a tutorial, but if I make it, I will put it on my Instagram page for you to see it. Okay, so we've got our cards. We're going to put those aside for right now because that is not our primary thing that we're going to be working on right now. I have cardstock I have already cut. I am using Tyvek. I do get some decent number of orders when I'm getting materials in. And so I have some of these envelopes and I always keep them and cut them down. Even used, they are fabulous. Tyvek is a fabulous thing. It is this, if you don't know what it is, it's a very specific, almost, I don't know how to describe it. It's this material, it just doesn't tear or rip. You can certainly cut it easily, but if I tried to rip it in half, I could not do that. And it makes for some really nice fluid corners for your hinges. It works well for hinging. So we're going to use those. We're going to use cream cardstock for the backing of the album, or I am. And then I decided to use, because a number of the cards are very vintagey, they're not all vintagey, but I do have to go with some kind of a theme for whatever papers I need on the inside, and there will be some. So I went with this Vintage Christmas. This was, I picked this up at Hobby Lobby. You know me, I'm not going to pay full price, so this was half price. And so for $5 and 60 sheets, it is pretty fabulous. So I'm just going to, you get, I think, 4 sheets of each. Nice pine cones and poinsettias, and I love that stripe. If you can't see it, it's a very distressed stripe. Cute. The little typewriters and the little Polaroid, they're adorable. Really are adorable. This is a really just nice floral. I love the postcard one. I like how this fits into the theme of what we're doing here, you know, of the album. Nice holly. Cute. Cute lights. I love that look of strung lights. And this one's really nice. It's, you know, you've got this plaid, but you have this, these pine cones in the corners. So probably should move it a little bit so you can see it better. More postcards, the written side of postcards with some of these really nice stamps on them. I wish they were real. Be so cool. Love this Santa paper. I've used that on a couple of things. Well, they have several. They have this particular Santa head in different ways throughout their lines. So they really are. They use this repeatedly. I've used, let's see, this guy I think is in their loose paper stock, and you can see that's the same Santa. And then I have some Santa heads. That sounds terrible. I did not chop off Santa's head. No one would do such a blasphemous thing. I'm trying to get this paper back in here. But then they also have a chipboard piece just like that, which I like, which I've used on a couple of different things. Some really cute skinny notebooks. I'll show you those later. And then some nice trees. Look at that nice sled. That's really cute. Redbud? Anybody know what I mean by when I say redbud? Golly. No, I do not remember the movie, but I did watch it in reruns when I was young. And then this really pretty Merry Christmas music sheet. So I think that's everything in that one. So I'm going to put that one aside so we can get started. So I've already cut. So here we go. Ready? Yay! So we have, I'm trying to get this in order, 2 pieces of chipboard. These are 5.5 by 7 3/4. So they are approximately a 1/2 inch bigger all the way around than what we're going to be putting inside them, than the photos and albums. So that is the size of that original album. And then we have a 2-inch spine. This is slightly bigger than my other spine, only because I found that the gusset was a little bit tight on that one, and I wanted to give myself just a wee bit more room on this one. So here we go. So I'm going to start. This is a little bit different, probably from things that you have seen other people do. Maybe not. I don't know. This may be exactly what you've seen other people do, and you're sitting there going, Sharon, I don't know why you think you're so different. Girl? All right. So I'm going to start, and I hope I'm staying in the screen. And this may look a little weird. Tyvek to me, it's very silky, might be the word. So I do not put straight glue on it. You can, and I've seen people do it, and it works just fine. I feel more comfortable making sure that I have some of my really good tape down. Isn't it funny how it's hard to talk while I'm concentrating on getting this on here straight? As straight as possible. And you may have noticed my Tyvek isn't exactly straight, and it doesn't need to be. it is, no one's going to see it. It's going to be hidden as long as you've got the right sizes. I think that did I do 2 inches? I did about 1 3/4 for this one. And that should be just fine. Let me see if I can fit this one down the middle. I can. I can, guys. That's plenty of space. What was I thinking? That's what my husband would say if he's parking a car. I got plenty of room. And he does. That man can park on a dime. It's weird. Do not ever tell him I said it, but I definitely became a lot better at my parking skills when we met. They just teach driving differently in England, very differently. Yeah, I've driven in England, I've lived in England, and it is definitely different, guys. Look at my hair. I have long hair. And some of it's better and some of it is not. They do not always stop at crosswalks. If they don't have, there are roundabouts everywhere. So you don't see stoplights the way you see them here. You just don't. It makes the traffic move much quicker, much more smoothly. I will certainly say that. But they also don't slow down. So if you're trying to cross an area with a roundabout, you know, it is definitely, you better watch out, because they won't, and there are people who won't slow down. I'll never forget trying to cross a road with little Brit in his baby carriage. He was only a few months old, and we were going for a walk, and we went to cross this one street, and the cars just, I was literally in the road and had to run for it because the cars just did not slow down. So that's kind of weird, because they're so they're so good as far as driving everything. I mean, they follow the rules of the road. They know if they get caught, they can lose their license. They can lose their car. I don't know if they still do that, but they used to. If you had an infraction or several infractions, they would literally come. And if you got stopped by a police officer, they would come to you with a big wrecker, and they would literally wreck your car in front of you. They wouldn't resell it. They wouldn't take it. They would just say, "You're not a good enough driver. We're taking your car away," and it would be gone. And I had just never seen anything like that before. But that is how they roll. So you better be a good driver. And you don't see people, when there are stop signs, they don't run them. The few stoplights I saw, and there aren't that many, there really aren't, they do not run those. They would not dare, because there's traffic, CCTV everywhere. So, very interesting differences. I have seen, my husband and I have been talking about this. We have seen a lot more, come on, glue, people running lights. When I was younger, that was just not something we saw. You didn't run a red light. It was such an unusual thing for anyone to run a red light. And now it's almost common, or at least where I live. It's a little bit shocking, and some of the dangerous driving that we've seen, it worries me. Just because it's so prevalent. That's sort of weird. Okay. I got this guy on here. Yes, this can be a wee bit of a pain. I'm going to go ahead and put, let's see, and I'm going to put this guy down. We're going to give him about half of the space on there. I'm going to line him up. I don't know if you can see all the way down to what I'm doing down below. No, you can't. It's right out of your sight. How about right there? Yeah, you should be able to see it now. I actually, so I lined him up like this. So now I know that he is, that this one, where this one is. So with my next, let me spin him around. Yep, that's me. So I'm going to line him up again, and I'm going to weight him down. I have this thing I found. I don't even know where I bought this. Yard sale or something, but it's been really useful, especially now. It's very useful. And what this means is I can kind of line this guy up. I do not need a tremendous amount of room. I'm just going to leave about maybe straight on there, 1/4 inch. That is pretty good. Okay, so I've got that nice 1/4 inch. This is also when I'm doing my my junk journals. This is how I put those together. With this being, of course, the cover of the Little Golden Book. But when I'm putting them together, I use my Tyvek and I do it like this. So now that I've got that together, I'm going over the top. I don't know that I've seen anyone else who does it this way. It works for me. I wouldn't know if there's a reason not to do it this way. But it works for me, and I feel like I have such good coverage. It's not just on the outside. I've got it on the inside too. I've got this nice over wrap here, and it just makes me more comfortable knowing that this can take a lot of, a lot. It can take a lot of a lot. So, okay, there we go. All right, so now we're going to prep the other one. So we've already got our tape down. This is my sewing. Yep. Score tape. This is my the score tapes. And I order these online. I don't know anywhere locally that I can source score tape. I might be wrong, but I've never seen it. So I do order these online. So we're just going to pull off this stuff. It is incredibly sticky, and certainly I could probably put that. I don't know that I would have a problem putting this together with just score tape. I know plenty of people who do it, and their albums do not come apart. They're gorgeous and beautiful. But I feel more comfortable making sure I have just a wee bit more going for me, because, just want things to last. I want to make sure that I'm doing stuff and it's useful and helpful to people. Now for this first one, I'm not going to worry too much about it, other than I just want to get it even. So I'm going to make this guy even on here without touching him. I touched him. No! This stuff is just redonkulously sticky. Okay. And I'm going to move this guy back just a little bit, because he doesn't need to take up more than his fair share. Oh, come on. All right. So I'm lining this one up here. And then I'm bringing this guy over about sorry, guys. About that far in. There we go. And here's why I don't want to go all the way in. I need enough room for my next piece to go on. At the same time, we need a little bit of space between the spine and the back. So I'm going to line him up. Sounds a little bit South Pacific-y to me. No. Yes. No. Trying to get this guy straight. Okay. And over the top. Okay. There we go. Okay. We have a book, or at least we have the outer part of a book. This is very heavy duty paper. So I want you to, you know, as heavy duty as it is, golly, I can almost see a shadow of the red through there. But that's okay because there'll be other decorations on here. It won't really show through. So I'm not going to worry about it. It just, once all the different components are on there, you will not see that. There are ways to cut these to get just the white. I just didn't do it this time. And if I was using a darker paper, it really wouldn't matter. I could use red, but I really don't want to. I want to use the white, the cream colored, and it's fine. This is 65-pound weight, and it really will be fine once it's done and together. You will not see the red peeking through. Sorry, I need a quick pick-me-up of my favorite. Gracious, I do not drink coffee. I just never liked coffee. I don't know why. Just my taste buds. All right, let me move this guy out of the way. We're going to put him up there. And the next step, which I certainly could have done first, but I decided not to do that first. This is usually how I do it. Next, I'm going to put together the front and back cover. Now, you can see that when I do this, there is not going to be a tremendous amount of space. Move it up. Here, I would prefer it be more like an inch. If I can do it this way. What happens if I do it this way? Oh, that's better. Okay, that'll work. That's much better. So this, where I connected, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch of score tape. And again, I will use a wee bit of glue. It's funny, I lived in England for a few years after my husband and I were first married. And I never heard the English accent in my own voice. People would sometimes hear it. You do pick up an accent when you're somewhere else to some degree. It's just natural. But I really can't do a British accent, which is funny. I can do a decent Scottish accent if I practice with it for a little bit. I will not malign the Scottish people by doing it here. But I do find that fun. Just sometimes. Okay, so we have our run of tape going on, and just to ensure that we get good coverage, that I get really good coverage. And by the way, I don't know if anyone else can tell. I always see a difference in size of even plain cardstock. I know I'm being weird, but I do. I really think I do. Okay. You can't leave this stuff for an instant. It will literally dry up on you almost right away. So, I always keep a pen handy to stick back in the bottle. I've got a big bottle. I'm going to stick it back in here. Stops it from doing anything. Okay. Do not. Okay. Oh, that was close. Did y'all see that? I could have gotten caught on the, that would have been bad. Caught on the tape. So our tape is down. I'm just going to go ahead and just do a really skinny bead of glue right along the top. And I'm going to do it here too. Like I said, if I can do it, cannot do a straight line. I used to be able to do straight lines. I don't know what happened. Okay, now I'm just going to try to line those up as best I can. And come on. And attach them. There we go. Once I've got them attached, I definitely want to burnish. And if you're not familiar with burnishing, what burnishing really is going to do for you, it's going to make the fibers of the paper come together. Okay. And I did a quick wipe underneath just in case some of the glue had come through. So there we go. It's together. It's nice and neat. You're going to have a seam. You pretty much always have a seam unless you're going and buying the really long paper from Michaels. Not Michaels. Is it Michaels? I think it's Michaels. Sells, I don't know what is it, 12 by 16 maybe? But they sell really long paper that can pretty much handle your longer books without getting a seam in them. I'm not going to, I just don't worry about that because it's pretty normal. And again, it gets covered by other layers. So this seam just looks a little dirty to me. I don't know why. So this is going to be the inside cover. So you can see what we did to ensure that this was that we had good coverage and that it's going to stick together. And for this one, I took two 8.5 by 11 sheets of cardstock and I attached them on the horizontal instead of on the vertical. Something like that, yes. So this would be vertical, and this would be the horizontal landscape. There, I'm going to use the term landscape. So I attached it on the landscape side so that I could get better coverage for my book. And that works. That really does work. Whew, nice. I'm just pleased that it's going to go together. I'm going to leave this connected spine in the middle. I don't always. Sometimes it's on a corner. If I have space to leave it on the middle, that's what I'm going to do because it's just going to make it a heck of a lot easier for me. I keep... this is my bigger glue. I keep this around. This is great for doing all sorts of corrections, but also it's where I stick the top. I stick the... pin when I take it out of my glue. Okay, yep, we're up and running. Okay, so I am using glue on this one instead of tape. And my reason for this, honestly, glue is cheaper, faster, and easier to reposition. With the Tyvek, like I said, it's just so slippery. I want to make sure that I'm getting it to stick. I want to make sure I'm getting it to stick. If it ever sounds like I'm being just super loud on this, I probably am. I am hard of hearing. I wear hearing aids. And so when you're hard of hearing, I think that, especially if it wasn't something, I didn't have hearing aids, golly, for the first 40 years of my life, something like that. So when you haven't had them for a long time, I mean, for all that time, when you really needed them, you certainly get louder because you need to hear yourself. And, so if I ever meet you out and about and I lean in or I say, could you repeat that? Or that's just, it's not you, it's me. It's just me. Okay, there we go. So, like I said, what's fun about that glue is that I actually get a second to reposition it. I do not get that using score tape. With score tape, once it's down, it's down. You want to pull it up, you're going to rip it all up. And that's okay. Sometimes that's what we need to do. Sometimes we need to rip it all up just to make it work. But if I don't have to rip it up, I really don't want to. I don't want to. So, cat my glue. I use let's see, what do I use? Just regular now. I am always using the art glitter glue. I have these big containers of art glitter glue that I refill my smaller bottles with. I only bought this one once, this smaller 2-ounce one, because I'm just going to refill it with my huge 16-ounce one. 16 or 20, 16-ounce ones, because 16-ounce ones, speak Sharon, are cheaper than like the even bigger bottles, which I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to score. And this is going to help everything when we get ready to glue it in place, or to actually, you know, fully adhere it. We need to make sure that it's, you know, already scored. This helps it from ripping. Paper is paper. And sometimes when you are using paper, when you're putting it together, when you're doing these things, it will tear. It'll just, I wouldn't say tear actually. It'll break apart. It'll just start kind of internally ripping. Internal combustion type thing. It's paper. So it won't do that if we're careful. You know, I say that. Sometimes it'll still do that if we're careful. The best way to combat that, to combat having your paper tear or your spine, I have had a spine, once the book is all together, crack. And when it cracks, what it means is that the paper has separated. The fibers have pulled apart and they've separated. And that is no fun to fix when it's already an album that is practically done. It is, yeah, no, sorry. I need to. So, super no fun. So we're going to do things to avoid that. The next thing I'm going to do before I start gluing this down is I want to get rid of this excess. I have a very specific way that I do that. So I'm going to come in a little bit here. And I'm going to come in a little bit here. I don't want to go straight across. I want to give myself a wee bit of leftover right there so that I don't uncover that corner. But if you uncover the corner, I'm going to show you how to fix it. I also, I'm coming a little bit further than that. Need to come in at an angle. So if I come in at an angle, a slight angle, not a huge angle, but if I come in at an angle, I won't try to overlap as much. I don't know if that makes sense. It'll make sense when you see it. If I'm coming in at my angle, and guys, it doesn't need to be neat-ish. So you see I'm coming in at my angle. There we go. So when I fold it over, notice that I've got really good coverage there. And I'll show you what we're going to do about the corner. But that's what I want. I want really, really good coverage. And I actually do it this way. I just think it looks neater on the inside. Because you get, when you're looking at the book, when it's opened up, you'll get more coverage. You won't see that over the side at the edge. So I do my long sides first. Now, before we go too far, if let's say, you know, Sharon, I was cutting, I thought I was getting it where I needed it to be, but it went in a little bit too close. And now when I do this and I cut too much, I did too much of an angle. When I fold it over, I can see chipboard underneath. Okay, easy fix. Take your corners that you would have thrown away and glue it down right there. When you glue that down, you will not be able to see anything. So if I had gone too far, I'm just going to attach this little corner to it, fold them over, and this shows up, and truly no one's going to notice that. It's such a slight thing. So you're all good. All right. One other thing about this glue as we start to glue down this side is that it dries truly ridiculously fast. It seemingly dries redonkulously fast. And it does. It really, truly does. However, when it looks like it's dry, and already, I don't know if you can hear some of the scraping. Already it's acting like it's dry. It's kidding. It's dry mostly, but that just means it's fully ready for you to stick it down. Now, When it's like that, you still want to move pretty quickly. This is not going to stay stickable forever. I know that there are some things that people work with, different mediums that people can work with, especially maybe in construction or in art, where you do adhere something and you have to let it partially dry before you adhere the other item to it, I guess. This one doesn't have to be that way, but it can be. And it's still perfectly viable. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this. It would be, it's already starting to try to dry up a little bit. But if it wasn't viable, it would no longer be useful because I wouldn't be able to get the coverage that I need. So, and once you glue it down, once you do that, make sure that you are taking... I'm going to go back over this one actually really quickly. Make sure you are taking whatever, whatever you're using, your bone, oh my gosh, bone, I can't remember the rest of it. Smoother, what use it? Make sure that you are really going over this and burnishing, because that is what's going to make it stay in place. It's the burnishing that does it. If I put it down and just sort of smooth it out, it may very well pop back up again later. It's the burnishing that makes a difference, and ensures that your albums are gonna, stick together. I hope to live, I don't know actually if I hope to live to be 100, but if I live to be 100, I hope that I'm gonna someday walk out and see someone using this, maybe my children or my children's children, my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren, whoever. It would be really cool to know that they're still using it. These things, these items that I built, that I created. It just feels so good to create, doesn't it? It just feels so good to create. And to have an outlet. I am very blessed to have this outlet. I think it's really important that people have something that they love to do, that they find what it is that they love to do, and that they have opportunities to do it. I am super, super lucky, quadruple lucky, in that I also have a job that I love. So this is common. You see this on books all the time. You get these nice pointy corners. That's fine. We've got this really sharp pointy corner. I can leave it as a pointy corner. I could come in and I could smooth it a little bit. So just smooth it a little bit. See, you run a risk. See? And you run a risk. So I went to smooth it and I bent a little bit too far on my paper. And I kind of brought the paper out. It's okay. Paper is smoothable. See, it disappears. But, gotta keep saying paper is paper. So there are ways that we can do it, or we can just not, let it bother us. This is, when I work with books all the time, and I work with really nice books too. I mean, not just, I do work in a middle school. I do the media and things for the middle school, but I also work with 150-year-old books sometimes. And books are books. They have, sharp edges sometimes. Okay. So at this point, people use different things for their spine. I want to make sure that my spine doesn't crack. So my next goal here is to ensure my spine won't crack as we start to add things to it. And that is why I'm going to very gently start turning it, folding it. I also don't want my paper to separate the paper that I've already put on there. So this is, I have this actually very old Jack Doug grading. I think it is for a contractor maybe, or it's just pretty. I don't know. I got it in a estate sale and I love it. And the estate was for a very talented woman. Oh my goodness, I think that she had passed away, but she was maybe 90 or more. And I got this years ago. But she was an architect, and she had been an architect in the 40s and 50s when being an architect for a woman was, you know, not easy. Okay. There we go. All right. Look, we got a book. Lovely. And I don't need my book to go any further than that. I have not pushed my spine to fold all the way in, because the truth is I would not take a book and try to get the spine to fold flat in this direction or that direction. I would want it to do exactly what it's doing. I have seen people who like to flatten this piece completely against the other side. That's just not necessary. It's certainly up to you, but for me, I find that it's just not necessary, because I'm never going to do that with my books, or with my creations. Okay, so our next step is we're going to build the gusset, and I'm going to move this guy out of the way to build the gusset. I'm going to grab my instructions here. You can kind of see I had to play around with a lot of different things: covers, signatures, envelopes. So my gusset is going to be 7 3/4 by 8, because that's about the size of my So my envelopes are 7 3/4 height-wise, but they're certainly a lot smaller lengthwise. My gusset is a different animal. So I need it to cover in the book. I need it to be that right length. I don't want it any bigger than my envelopes, and I'm going to be checking that against the envelope themselves. And I'll show you what I mean when I say I'm going to be checking it against the envelope. Actually, it doesn't matter for these. Okay, so it doesn't matter. This is actually one of these. My thought process is moving too fast. So this is one of the easiest ones you can do. I need to find another piece of my cream. Okay, here we go. The reason this is one of the easier ones that you can do is that when you're putting your pages in, you're just connecting envelopes. So I don't have to cut out a bunch of pages and then carefully fit them onto my gusset. There are many ways to do gussets, many ways to do pages. It gets a lot easier. But, you know, when you're starting out, that can be difficult. So we are going to start with, oh, I don't want that. Okay. See, I'm glad I'm looking at my notes here, because my gusset needs to be smaller. This could have been a disaster. Okay, the 8 inches is the lengthwise, but my gusset from top to bottom, this is already 7 3/4. I don't want my gusset to go all the way up there. I need it to come in a little bit. So I probably want to take off a 1/4 inch at the top and bottom for the gusset. Okay, so I take off a 1/4 inch. That's going to change that from 7 3/4 to 7 1/4 for the gusset. Because you just wouldn't want it to go, you know, from here to here. If I made it go from here to here, and that's true for any gusset, if I made it go from here to here, it's not going to hold as well, because it's easy to catch it and do things on it. You want it to be inset to some degree. And a 1/4 inch on the top and bottom is perfectly reasonable. So we're going to go with a 1/4 inch top to bottom. So glad I took another quick look. That's why we do notes. That's why I do notes. Other people, I'm sure, are much more talented, and it just comes naturally. For me, I will just go with my notes. Okay, so the first thing, this is 8.5 by 11. So I still need it to be 8 inches lengthwise. 8 inches lengthwise. Yes. This is right. Okay. Yes, this is right. I'm going to switch it and I'm going to do my 7 1/4 first. And here's why. And I'm actually probably going to bring it in just to make sure my gusset, 7 1/4 fine. Yeah, I do talk to myself. So I'm going to actually cut this one first, my 7 1/4 first, because I want the biggest piece of leftover that I can get. I'm just funny that way. And I always have extra paper on hand in case I miscut. So I want this to be 8 inches. So you can see I'm not losing a whole lot here. I have the biggest piece here. I didn't cut into it, and we're just going to set those aside. We may need them later. We're going to hope this all works out. And we're going to get our scoreboard out. Okay. I'm going to get my directions out too. Okay. We're going to start by coming in. That should be right. It's my 8-inch side. If it doesn't work, we'll try it again. We're going to come in 2 1/4 inch. How's that going to work? I keep talking to myself because the paper just doesn't look big enough to me at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and save myself a little bit. I'm just going to come in at 2 inches. And then I need to come in another 1/4 inch in between. Yeah, if I don't do that. Oh, herein is where I made my mistake. That's okay. We're going to try this. We're going to go a 1/4 inch. We're just going to keep doing a 1/4 inch. So the mistake I made, I'll show you, because I needed to think it through. I was going to put a 1/2 inch and then a 1/2 inch in between. But here's the mistake. I need a full inch in between each 1/2 inch. And the reason I need a full inch in between each 1/2 inch is to ensure that I can take the two and fold them together. So instead of 8 inches, I actually needed another, oh golly, 1.5 inches. So this really should be, I would just go with 10 inches just to make sure I had some on the end. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to stop and I'm going to recut this. And I can use this for another one, but with the envelopes, I don't think I want gussets this small. You can do 1/4 inch gussets. I just don't think I want to do 1/4 inch gussets on this one. This is another way, by the way, to do a floating spine, but I'm going to put that away for a floating spine for later. And something I promise I will show at some point in the future. I make no promises about when. We're going to do this again, okay? Which is why I kept looking at the 8 inches and going, really? So what I'm going to do to start with, I'm not going to cut my length because I want to make sure I have plenty of length. So I'm going to, mistakes are there for a reason, right, guys? The only thing I'm going to cut down is this one. I'm going to cut this length 7 1/4 inch. Right? I'm going to do it now. And here we go. So 7 1/4 inch. I'm going to take this before I do anything else and make sure that 7 1/4 inch works. It really does. So if you can see that at the top and at the bottom with 7 1/4 inch, it's going to give me really good coverage. I will tell you right away, I'm not going to have, this isn't going to go to the end because once I start doing my gussets, it's going to get smaller. But that's okay as long as I have enough room for the gussets that I planned. I do like to do 1/2 inch gussets. And the way I had this planned, it would have worked if not for those pesky kids. No, sorry. So I'm going to come in 2 inches. And I'm just going to go ahead and give myself a 2 inch. Then I'm going to go to, this would be, so the 2 inch is going to be about here on my book. Okay, it's going to come in where the book hinges are. Then I'm going to go to a 1/4 inch. That's going to be my space in between my first gusset. My first gusset is going to be a 1/2 inch, and this is where people get all sorts of screwy measurements. So if my first one is at 2, my second one is at 2 1/4, my third one is at another 1/2 inch, which is 3/4, and then 3 1/4. Now I'm doing a 1/4 inch in between those because, no, am I? No, I'm doing a 1/2 inch in between those. So we're just going to go ahead, because no one's going to see this. This is going to be 1, 2. That's my first hinge. Okay? This is nothing. This is just a little space in between where my main hinge, my main hinge for the book is. This is going to be a gusset. Now my gussets are going to be a 1/2 inch. That sits in between a gusset. Another 1/2 and another 1/2. I'm going to label this 3, 4. No one's going to see that. It's going to be covered up. And I can erase it if I really, if it makes me uncomfortable. But right now, what would make me more uncomfortable is messing up for you guys again. Okay, so there's another in-between. I'm not going to put anything on the in-betweens because you'll see those. 2. Okay, 3, 4. We've got 5, 6. And 1/2 inch. And 7, 8. I feel like I'm picking up sticks. Okay, and 7, 8. Gusset 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And I'm glad I left the full amount. I could have cut it down, but there's just no point. I don't need to. Okay, so in between this gusset and the next hinge is only going to be a 1/4 inch, as it is on that one. Because I just don't like that length in between. That's just me. I'm not even going to bother to cut this piece down. I don't need to. I don't need to. Okay. So now you can see our gussets, right? You can kind of see them. Now is the time we're going to start folding. I'm not going to worry about this part. I'm not worried. I want to make sure that my gussets are folded properly. So I'm going to start by folding between 1 and 2. And although that's my first gusset, I'm also going to fold that little space in between, right? I'm going to fold that down, and I'm definitely going to smooth it out and burnish it. Okay? Now my next gusset is going to be between this 3 and 4. And again, now when we're doing gussets or any folding, quite frankly, we generally want our strongest folds to be folded into the mountain. This is the mountain. You can see how it's raised. This is your valley. Your valley is your weaker point. So when I do gussets, I want to fold in to the mountain. Okay, you're starting to see them come alive here, right? I'm just going to keep working on my gussets. I'm not going to worry about the in-between space that gives me a nice separation for my gussets. This guy's he's not being pleasant. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. So then we have this nice even spacing right between our gussets. We have a really nice even amount of spacing. And then I'll do my last one. Come here. So the mountain, it seems counterintuitive, or at least it did to me, when I first started doing these and realized, why would I not fold in with this thing that's already folded in? Because that is already weakened by folding it in. It's already giving at that point. And if you look at greeting cards, you'll see kind of that interesting look where they have folded with the mountain, the way they folded in the mountain. So if I open this greeting card, you can kind of see the ridge here where it's folded into the mountain instead of valley. Okay. Woohoo! So we're starting to get there. Our gusset isn't quite done because the next thing we need to do is make sure that it sticks together, that these pieces stick together, and that this can go into our book. So now I'm going to take my gussets and I am going to adhere them together. For this step, I use, where's that one? I'm going to use 1/4 inch score tape and glue. And honestly, it's just my trying to be absolutely positively sure that nothing ever moves. I think in a previous video I did mention one of my first, no, not just one of my first, my very first album, I used the tape because I had seen a lot of videos of people just using the tape. And I don't know how they get theirs to work, but my, well, I kind of do. My pages were just so heavy that the tape pulled up, started to pull apart. And actually not on my gussets, it was the tape on the, holding the gusset to the book here. And I'll show you that in a little bit. So now I just am very tape shy about it. Because I want it all to stay together forever. I'm just going to do it on this. It doesn't honestly matter which side I do. It really doesn't. As long as I'm attaching the tape to the inside of the gusset and not accidentally attaching it to what should be the outside that holds it together. Okay, it's there. Quick burnish. Quick burnish. You'll also notice that when you put your tape down, sometimes you have little bubbles. The burnish gets rid of all that. Okay. So now, handy dandy tool. This I got at the Dollar Tree. This is, I guess it's to help when you're using a Cricut to separate the sticker away from the Cricut. I have different uses for it. Well, me and dozens of other people have discovered how wonderful that tool is and what a useful thing it can be. I got it originally. I was thinking about buying a Cricut. I picked this thing up and I was thinking it might be useful. I have not purchased myself a Cricut. I have read all sorts of reasons why some people prefer not to. And it's not that I don't want to, you know, you have to use a computer with a Cricut. People don't always realize that. I'm really enjoying the die cuts right now. And, you know, Cricut's a pretty big investment. So, and opening this company has been a pretty big investment. Getting it up and running. I'm loving every minute of it. But it's, you know, certainly a big investment, and I am very grateful that I have a family that is supportive of it, helping me do this. From my wonderful children who know that I sometimes have to stop. Little Brit, who just, he's so good about knowing that I'm working on this. I do try very hard not to work on it during certain hours. And so I'm trying to work on it at night, or when my husband's home and he and little Brit are doing something together. They both love video games. And I stop. So I'll try to get a couple of hours in the evenings. And then I will stop when it's time for little Brit to go to bed, and I will go read to him because it helps him go to sleep. Right now, it's funny. I say that I will read to him, and right now we're reading the second Percy Jackson book. We finished the first one probably last week, and he just was chomping at the bit to get into the second one. We have the series, which is a good thing because my media center only had one of those books, and it was lost during the pandemic. So, students forget they have stuff, so that's considered lost. So it was lost during the pandemic, so we don't have it, and it is one of my most requested books. I did order it, or it's been ordered, but we don't have it yet. But we have the book here because we all love books, and we have a whole library. Literally, we have a library. But I digress. So what little Brit will do is he reads ahead. He gets interested in the book. He'll read ahead. His class is actually reading Percy Jackson, and they're supposed to be on, I don't know, maybe chapter 10. He finished the book and we're on book 2. But he'll read ahead. But then when I go in to read to him at night, he's already read that. Then he can go to sleep without feeling like he missed anything. And I catch up. And it's just really nice. And he cuddles in, and it's just really nice mommy time. Mommy little Brit time. So, okay. All right, guys, we are really moving along well here. Okay. So now we've got our gusset that we'll be using. And now the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to attach this to our album. And to do that, and to make it relatively quick, yeah, y'all know me. I'm going to be using doubling up. Okay. So I have tape. I sound like, oh, which one's the Bette Midler witch? Where she says, book. But so much better than I did. So much better than I just did. Oh, Bette Midler, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. I do not mean to malign or to interfere with your beautiful voice at all. I guess I'm not interfering. Anywho, I sure digress sometimes, don't I? But I'm just here rambling. And for me at the moment, it's to myself. But it's really, really nice to know that there are people out there who are going to be watching and listening at some point. And, you know, you guys have left me such nice messages. And yeah, that feels really good. It's really nice. Really, really nice. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and burnish. And burnish. I'm going to come down and burnish. I want to make sure that this is really holding on. We're going to get this down here. I want to make sure. The other nice thing about having the 1, 3, 5, about having my numbers on there, when I go to put it in, I know the directionality that I had intended. And sometimes that makes a difference. Does it always make a difference? No, not always. And you can see where I put that ½ inch, that 1/4 inch mark there. I'm going to end up putting those right in between, and we'll have a different spacing, and that's okay. I think this part is the hardest to get exact. You're really working with a lot of elements here. All right, I'm going to try to, I'm actually under a time crunch because we are going, it is actually Sunday morning, and my intention was to do this for you last night, and I had a video that I was trying to upload, and it took forever. So I'm doing this Sunday morning, and we are supposed to be going over to see my son and daughter-in-law. My beautiful, amazing son and daughter-in-law. They said they wanted to bake some sourdough gluten-free bread for little Brit. He and I and several members of my family are gluten-free out of necessity, which, boy, do I wish there were so many more options. If you are gluten-free like we are, and you ever have the chance to go to England or Europe, wow, bring a suitcase that you can bring back just food, as long as it's permissible in wherever you are. It is in the U.S. as long as you declare it. I once had Border Patrol in Canada tell me I hadn't declared a milk chocolate and they said, you have to declare that. I said, well, chocolate wasn't on the list. And she said, milk is on the list. So I don't know if that's true for everybody, but certainly this Border Patrol said that milk chocolate was considered a milk product in Canada when you were crossing the border. And I'm so sorry, didn't mean to break any rules. And, they were fine about it. As long as, just I got a warning. The next time I went through Canada, declare my milk chocolate. Yes, ma'am. I sure will. Okay, there we go. It's in. It is in like Flynn. Look at that. Okay, so that's it. So I used a combination of glue and the score tape. And I will say, too, with my score tape, I did not go... I went against the grain of the book, so to speak, because I put my tape this way instead of this way, which would be, if you're pulling, that would kind of go with the flow. So there's always going to be a pull when your book is up and your pages are in and the pages have things on them. That's just natural gravitational pull if you sit your book up. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing... giving it a bad pull. I'm going to pull my ruler back out and we're going to do this again. We're just going to get in here. Okay. Just to give it the spacing. Okay. I mean the ease of flow. I don't know. I don't know what to call this. An easy fold. I'm going to call that an easy fold. Okay. Okay. Now. Okay. Now we have our book, right? We've got, okay. So why am I doing this? Because I can see that I'm stressing the paper. I can see that I'm doing that and I don't want to stress my paper. So I'm going to go over the top. I'm going to try to de-stress it a little bit by smoothing it. Okay, so we're smoothing it. We have a book. It's kind of stiff. So probably with this, you could give it a little bit more space between the spine and the front and back. Just because we've added so many extra elements to it. But it's holding up. It's all good. I'm going to show you something that I'm going to do. Where did I put that other piece? Here we go. So we had these extra pieces here. I'm actually going to cut a little bit off. And I'm going to add one along there. And the reason I'm just going to add a piece here, even though you won't be able to see it when I put the extra piece on top, is just for the smoothness of the design. If I don't put this piece here, then when you put another piece of cardstock here, you're going to see a slight bump. It's going to make a difference. Now, having said that, I just realized if I'm using a card, it really won't make a difference. So if I was just going to be adding additional paper to the front and back, I would probably go ahead and add something here and here so that the paper would have a smooth space to go on, so that it would not be what's the word I'm looking for? Flat. It would be a flatter surface for it. This is a very, very slight bump, but it's still a slight bump. And with paper, that can make a difference. So just so you know that when you're doing yours, something to consider. If you're using paper instead of a card on these sections, then you might want to go ahead and add just an extra piece of cardstock right here, or even just between, see, right between these two. Right here is where you're going to get a ridge. If it's not such a heavy piece of cardstock that it just doesn't matter. And some of them are heavy enough that it really won't matter. I was saying before, it's Sunday, and so I'm under a bit of a time crunch. I'm going to try to get this done for you today. I am trying out some new software so that I can edit 2 videos together. So hopefully this won't just be part 1 and part 2. Maybe it should be part 1 and part 2, so I don't run out of time for you. Okay, we're going to do it that way. This was part 1. So in part 1, we have put together the book, the gussets, the pieces, and this is your general construction. This is kind of the way you construct any junk journal, album. This is how I do it. I shouldn't say this is how you do it. There are actually many different ways to do gussets. There are floating gussets. There are sewn-in gussets. There are many different ways to do them. This is the way I do it for most of mine, although I've tried some other ones and toyed with some other ideas. I will finish up this album and put these out there for you, but for right now, we're almost there. What we're going to do, and I'll show you, I will give you a little bit of a look ahead before I stop and get ready to go out to see the guys. Okay. Remember I said I was going to try to put like colors together. So that's what I'm doing right now, because if they're side by side, that's where you might notice a slight difference. Okay, so those 3, those 2, those 3. And that's okay. I'll pull the rest of those real quick. And then you look at them long enough and you're like, how did I ever see a difference in these? But I really do. Okay. That one's pretty similar to that one. Yep. So there is, golly, there's even a slight difference with those. And like I said, when it's all in the book, you really, really won't notice. You'll look at me and say, are you crazy? I might be a little bit. But I can still see a slight difference in these colors. This one's a little bit darker. This one's, and it might even show up better on there. This one, when I'm looking through the video feed, this one looks pink. It's not. It's red. So these are all just slightly different. I don't know why. Probably they come from different lines. Okay, so those all look the same to me. So I'm going to kind of, yeah, we'll do that. There. So what I've done is I've really put together the different colors and to me what's more coherent, so that as you look through, you're not going to see the 2 colors side by side that makes you go, is that off? So I just went ahead and put the colors together. That's one thing I can do to prep for the next stage. What we're going to be doing is we're actually going to use an envelope here and then a card on top of it. And this is going to be our background paper. And then when we do the gussets, we'll be attaching them. I mean, the pages, the signatures, we'll actually be attaching them like this, back to back, so that we have the open flap, and then, yeah, like this. Or did I do it like this? Might be like that. So anyway, so we end up having, no, it's like this. It's like this. So we end up having this nice open flap, and then we can put another one in between, like so. Let's see that. So we've got those two side by side. We're going to put that one in. This one gets attached here. This piece actually goes up here. So this top one is not going to open. But when I put my card here and when I put my card here, I will end up having two pockets built right in. So that's how those are going to go together, and that's something that we're going to do in the next one. We'll put the signatures in, put the gussets in, and finish up our book. And we'll do the front. I do think that I'm going to do a tie on for the front, so that's something that is that we'll do. That can be pretty quick and easy. All right, guys, put that on the side. Thank you so much for being with me today. This is part one. So please come on back and take a look for part two. And yeah, thanks so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. If you liked it and you want to see part two, the easiest way to be told that that's ready is if you subscribe, so it pops up in your feed. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great day or evening. Cheers.